Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to tackle Wes Montgomery's West Coast Blues. This is an interesting one. It's a blues in 3/4 time, and the structure, although still revolving mostly around the idea of 1/4/5, has a few little extra tricks thrown in here and there. Now we're going to learn the head of the tune and the first solo. We'll cover the chords and the lead parts for both of these sections. And hopefully with this piece you'll find that the difficulty versus reward ratio is just about perfect. It's challenging in all of the right ways, but not technically well out of reach. In some ways, this is the perfect Wes Montgomery piece to get started with. We're in the key of B flat. We're going to start on the 1, B flat, dominant 7. I'm going to use this voicing here that you've seen me use a lot, rooted on the E string. We then move this down a whole tone to the A flat 7. And then we move back to the B flat 7 again, before playing a 2/5 in the key of A. So that would be B minor 7 to E9 in this case, and then dropping a semitone to our 4 chord, E flat 9. And then we're back to the 1 again, and then we have the 5, the F9, the 4, and the 1. And those are the changes for the head. I'm going to play through that now at a slightly slower tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That little sidestep from the B flat 7 to the A flat 7. I love the sound of that. Really works well in a blues. Pulls you back in a really nice way. Some people call that the backdoor dominant or the backdoor progression. It's very much like the 4 minor. If we think about it, they're really just inversions of one another. The flat 7 dominant and the 4 minor 6 are essentially the same chord. I'll probably do a full lesson covering some of these common cadences soon. So that's the progression for the head. Now when we go into the solo sections, the progression gets fleshed out a little further. Starts off the same way. And then we employ one of Wes's favourite tricks, a descending chromatic run of 2/5s. We take this E flat 9 and make it an E flat minor 9, and we treat it as if it's a 2 in a 2/5. The 5 will be the A flat 7 with a 13 added. So we're going E flat minor 9 to A flat 13, move it down a semitone, D minor 9 to G 13, move it down again, D flat minor 9 to G flat 13. And then move it down again, and we're back to the actual 2/5 of our home key of B flat, so we spend longer on these ones. These ones we move through fairly quick, 1 bar of each. But now on the C minor 9 to the F13 we do 2 bars on each. And then we employ another of Wes's favourite tricks, the Ladybird Turnaround. B flat major 7 to D flat 9 to G flat major 7 to B 7, resolving back to the B flat 7. And that would start the next go round. So we might resolve back to this one in fact. Check out my turnarounds video, I'll link it in the description. That goes into a little more depth on this Ladybird Turnaround. It's such a gorgeous sounding thing. So I'm going to do a full playthrough on those solo changes. Again, slightly slower than full tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if we can reconcile what this whole B minor 7 to E9 thing is all about. So B minor 7 to E7, or E9, and again we said that would be a 2-5 in A. So you might be expecting an A major on the end of it. But if we think about the context here, we're trying to get from B flat 7 to E flat 7. B flat 7, of course, is the 5 of E flat 7. So it has a strong pull to that chord already, you know, the 5 of 4. But what about if we tritone subbed the B flat 7 to an E7? And now we're getting closer, right? So that's going to resolve down a semitone to the E flat 7. Now if we can tritone sub it and get the dominant chord, the E7, we can also take that extra leap and grab the 2 before getting that dominant. So really, we're dealing with tritone substitution there, as is often the case. Again, check out my video on tritone substitutions. I'll link it in the description. Make sure to check out the links in the description if you want to get hold of lesson materials for this. If you sign up for my Patreon, for just £10 a month, you get access to all of my lesson materials, past, present and future. There's tons of bonus stuff on there too, from transcriptions and Q&As to weekly recommended listenings and gear talk. And soon I'll be featuring interviews with well-known great players on there too. Our ever-growing community on there is now well over 200 strong. Lots of like-minded players with a thirst for knowledge, looking for somewhere inspiring to hang out. So do join us. On the other hand, if you don't fancy the Patreon thing, you can go to the Gumroad link to get the materials for this lesson in particular. Either way, I'm very thankful for your support. It's what allows me to keep making these videos week in and week out, so thank you. Okay, now let's get on to learning the head of the tune. Our first phrase is going to be played over a B flat 7 chord, and it sounds like this. Now if we simplify the phrase for a moment by taking away the slide, we're dealing with this group of notes, which is all taken from a B flat 7 arpeggio. We're playing the 3rd, the root, the 5th, and the flat 7. The slide into the major 3rd is happening from a semitone below. That's something we've spoken about quite a bit on this channel, the minor to the major 3rd bluesy trick that everybody loves. Now we move down to follow the chord moving down to the A flat 7, and we're going to play the same phrase. The only thing we chuck in between is this little pickup run. Now this pickup run in itself is a very common bebop, swing, jazz, blues kind of a phrase. It's got a bit of a rockabilly feel to it as well. 5th, 6th, root, and then into our normal phrase here. And then we play that pickup for the B flat. So far, now we're about to target this 2-5 that we said was a tritone sub of the B flat 7, leading us to the E flat 7. And he plays this cute little phrase. If we think about the note choice there, this is a common thing with Wes. Minor 7, targeting the 9th. Here would be your 11, and then there's your 5th. And then finally onto the flat 3. You know, he's a fan of these upper extensions of a chord, the 9, the 11 and the 13. It gives us this really rich sound. So that's his MO when he plays this over the B minor 7. Bringing in a little touch of class with those upper extensions, continuing in the same vein over the E7, sliding into the major 3rd from a whole tone below, sliding up to what would be the 13 or the 6th, and then a bit of this 11 or 4 to the 5 and back. Now over the 4 chord, he does this common trick that I've mentioned in other blues-centric videos that I've done, where you can be thinking about the 1 going from major to minor. So B flat minor gives us a good group of notes to use over the E flat 7. You know, B flat minor 6 give you a lot of the really useful notes to play over an E flat 9. And it's quite easy to think about it. You know, major, minor. So taking that approach, all we need to really do is flatten the third from that original phrase. And again, insert the slide in from below. Same pickup as before. Back to the major, so that's the 1 again. So just to clarify, we're playing over the 4, where we flattened the third that we were using over the 1, and then we go back to the 1, targeting that major third again. Now he's going to recycle this idea over the F9, but move it up a semitone. If we think about how we were using that previously over a B minor 7 to an E9, we can now be thinking F9 or C minor 7 to F9 if we want to. Doesn't really matter whether you're thinking about the C minor as being part of that or not. Whether it's 2, 5 or simply just 5 makes very little difference. The 2 and the 5 are both so synonymous with one another, you can kind of leave one out if you need to. For example, Wes would quite often just ignore the 5 and play something over the 2 instead. It's going to work well either way. So over the F9 so far we've got this. Then we're going to play. Now as a side note and a piece of advice that helps you memorize things faster and make sense of things by labeling them, you want to spot recognizable patterns when you see them. Now this phrase here contains 2 triads, right? A G minor and then an F major. Put in a little passing note before the G minor, a semitone below, and you've got the phrase. And then we follow the chords, moving down a whole tone by shifting the phrase down a whole tone. We chop the first note off the phrase this time and play. So this is what we have over the 5 and the 4. On the recording, those last notes of each of those phrases is like a ghost note. If you find it too hard to fit it in there, feel free to leave it out. If you include it, play it soft. It's almost just the suggestion of a note. And then we're back to the 1 chord. And then for the turnaround, an F7 with a sharp 9 and a sharp 5. And then it goes round the head again. It's going to be exactly the same, but without that chord on the end, so no turnaround. Leave that off the second time. Now practice this at slow speeds, get everything sounding crisp and accurate. I'm going to play it along with the metronome here, and I suggest you do the same. I'm going to slow it down to 130. Full speed is somewhere around 150. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Take your time, get it up to a good speed, and then tackle this first solo. So the first phrase, played over the B flat 7, is this really fantastic opening line. For me there, I'm thinking about the B flat minor blues scale. Starting root and climbing along the G string with one additional note, the major third. So you create this fully chromatic line at that point. Then a typical kind of blues phrase at the end there. Now we chuck this on the end. This really belongs to the next chord, A flat 7. You can see how directly he's followed the change there and grabbed the third of that chord. Now we're on this A flat 7 chord, and he plays something very much like what we spoke about earlier. This idea that the 2 and the 5 should become so synonymous with one another that you can flip between them on a whim, like a lot of jazz players do, not just Wes. He's thinking A flat 7, but he's also grabbing notes from an E flat minor 7 arpeggio. That's all from an E flat minor 7 arpeggio, which in a world where this is 5, E flat minor 7 would be the 2, right? Now back on the 1 chord, B flat 7, he runs up a B flat mixolydian scale from the 6th degree. Now the B minor 7 to the E7, he plays. And again, now as you'll see through much of this solo and all of his playing, he's really targeting the chord changes very directly. People often ask me, do you really have to target the changes in a very literal way? And I say, yes, you do. And you at least want to be able to have the power to do that, even if at some point you start playing with more broad strokes here and there. You really do want to be able to target the changes in a very direct way. Nothing bad can come of learning to do that. Hitting those notes with real accuracy and confidence is so important. So this phrase is a 2-5 type of phrase, of course. So we're thinking on the B minor 7, you got the root, the 5th, the flat 7, and then really we can be thinking this now belongs to the E7, where that would be the major 3rd and the 5th, and then we play a very common rundown from the root to the flat 7. Now think about how that ties in from the previous lick. There's no gap, we just have to make this stuff run smooth together. He's never late, he's landing those changes as they appear. So you got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, beat 1 of that new change. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now the next part of this phrase, he's anticipating the next change, so we're going to the E flat 7 or the E flat 9. You can even visualize a good old power chord there at the end, the 5th and the root of the E flat. There's your flat 7, little passing note into it, and then chromatically moving down to the 5th and the root. And again, that's all part of that previous run of notes. The next phrase sort of straddles both the E flat 9 and the E flat minor 9. And he plays this. Really cool. Okay, so minor to major 3rd again, typical blues trick. The 5th and the flat 7, so that's just all from an E flat 7 arpeggio. Then again we're thinking E flat minor 9, there is the 9. And then just descend an E flat minor 7 arpeggio. Now we're into that descending run, chromatically moving down through these 2 5s. Over this next one, the D minor 9 to the G7, we play. Now there's real efficiency to this movement here. Take that previous lick, where we were using that shape for the E flat minor 7 arpeggio, and just move it down a semitone for the D minor 7 arpeggio. Just following the changes as they move. Great little phrase, sliding into what would be the 5th, then the minor 3rd, walking down to what would be the 3rd of the G7 that has now landed. So a great little 2-5 lick suggesting D minor to G7. Now we move down a semitone again to the D flat minor 9, and we play this. Lovely little phrase again. Thinking about the minor 7 arpeggio primarily. but adding the ninth and a couple of little trilly things. So we're playing 11 on the top string, that's the 11th fret, which is the 9th interval. Hammer to 12, pull back off, pull off again to 9. So one pick stroke there, repeat on the 2nd string. It's really good to practice those things and gain some strength and agility in that little finger. And then we're following this line as it moves down, so we need to move down quick with the line. So we play this. C minor 7 or C minor 9. We're on what would be the 5th. And then we play this beautiful phrase. Might be my favourite lick in the solo, actually. So we're thinking C minor, and again, like we said earlier, he liked to start phrases on the 9 quite often. There's the 9, then there's your 11, some of those upper extensions again. Chromatically come down to the minor 3rd, grab the 5th, back to the 9, semitone below the root, passing note. And then we climb through this beautiful little line of minor 9th, minor 11 kind of goodness. So you're sliding in from the 9 again to the minor 3, to the 5th, reach for the 2nd finger on the flat 7, so you're shifting position as you go. Then here's your 9 again, your 11, and your flat 3. Now as the chord shifts to the 5 chord, the F7, he plays this great F altered dominant lick. Bringing in elements like the flat 9, the sharpened 5th, the sharp 9. Really kind of great sounding run of notes. This last note here really belongs to the next chord, the 1, the B flat major 7, where that would be the 5th of the chord. So there's our 2-5-1 lick. 2, 5, 1. Now on the 1 he plays. I mean, that is a great run on its own. You could use that very easily in so many different settings. Anywhere there's a 2-5-1, throw that in, or some element of it at least. Now we're into that Ladybird turnaround. We're about to land on this chord, D flat 9, and we're going to play this phrase. This group of notes is kind of more commonly associated with A flat minor 7 or A flat minor 9 in this case. There's the 9, flat 7, 5th, flat 3. But again, this is some evidence as to how symbiotic those two things are, right? The A flat minor 7 to the D flat 7. Think of them as the same, use the same ideas on both. That's the Wes approach. So now we can be thinking about this as if it's D flat dominant of some sort. Now in the solo, of course, we don't add the thumb. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. If that was in the bass, what you'd now have is the flat 7, the 9, the 11, and then what's that on top? The 13. Pretty cool. So here's our phrase. It's got that typical bebop kind of patter, that rhythm to it, starting on the offbeat and then going into a triplet. 1, 2, 3, and 1 and a 2 and. Now on the next chord, the G flat major 7, we're going to play this fairly typical blues phrase. So that would be the root, the 5th, the sus4 sound, root, slide minor to major 3rd. Such a great run of phrases there at the end. Let me play through from the C minor 9 to the F7, so that's the 2-5, all the way through to our Ladybird turnaround. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That's the end of the first solo, and that's as far as we're taking it today. So I hope you've enjoyed working on a bit of Wes Montgomery. This is a great way to refresh your blues playing, take some of these ideas and put them in your own solos. Think about those 2/5s as well. It's well worth digging into those and spending some serious time on them. And also don't neglect the chords. Make sure to get that chord progression up and running. Get it down in your looper so you can play the lead on top. I think you should always hold yourself to that kind of a standard. To be equally comfortable with the rhythm and lead parts, in my opinion, is non-negotiable. This week's recommended listening, of course, is going to be Wes Montgomery. Check out the album simply titled The Incredible Jazz Guitar of Wes Montgomery. That was my first Wes album, and it blew me away from start to finish. That's also the album that features this song that we've learned today, West Coast Blues. Also check out the album Boss Guitar. That's got one of my favourite ever versions of Days of Wine and Roses on it. In fact, I'm going to do a lesson on that one soon as well. His chord melody on that is jaw-droppingly beautiful, as is his solo. Also his live album Smoking at the Half Note, very well known in jazz circles, highly regarded as one of the greatest live guitar albums of all time, and for good reason. So give that one a listen as well. Also check out his live recording of Round Midnight from Belgium in 1965. Again, it's one of my favourite versions of that song. And I'm also going to link to a really fascinating video that shows a little bit of a behind-the-scenes moment. It's rare to see that kind of a glimpse into his method, but you get to see him sitting down with a piano player and teaching him the song they're going to perform. It's really fascinating to watch. Please do like and subscribe, and also please hit that notification bell. All of these things make a big difference to the visibility of my channel. My analytics are telling me at the moment that over 60% of my viewers are not subscribed. That's painful. Please do subscribe. It only takes you a second, not even that maybe, and it's free. And a big shout out to my Patreons. You guys are absolutely amazing, keeping me motivated and inspired every single day. Thank you. Okay guys, so I'll see you next week for another lesson. Take care.